Okay, so here we are then, guys. It is now November the 25th, 1 month to the big day, Christmas Day. And we have two great teams for you again. I've been spoilt over the last couple of weeks with some great teams, and this week has been no exception. These guys have been absolutely top draw students this week, and I'm very excited to what we're going to see today. First team is Jared and his team, and I will start the timer, Jared, as soon as I hear a member of your team speak. Could you just confirm for me who that person is again for me, Jared?
That'll be me.
Okay, Jared. So I've got the stopwatch all primed and ready, my friend, and I will start the timer as soon as I hear you boys. Good luck.
Okay, welcome guys to the project, which is concerning the Bramley Road refurbishment. We are Trotters Independent Traders Limited. I want to take a moment to introduce you to our team. So there's myself, Jared. I'm the senior project manager on this project. We have Kenny Cameron, the health and safety advisor, Scott Crowley, the assistant site manager, Adesola Ogunsola as the contracts manager, Abraham Henan as the designer, and Paul Crabb as site manager. A little bit of a brief overview of the project for those that are not aware. The scope of our works is the renovation of an old 1900s factory building, along with the conversion and fitting out of 3 separate shops with flats on the second story. There is some points to note with some work that's previously been undertaken, which is the roof has already been renovated. The external brickwork has already been pointed. There's asbestos in the boiler room, which has already been removed, and the parking has already been developed. And we want to pay some special considerations to a local school and a farm. So a quick overview of the site then. So we have the site plan here. As you can see there, the red box is the site perimeter, which will be a 3-meter high V-mesh security fence. In the top right-hand corner of the site, we have the site officers and welfare, pedestrian turnstile access. We have the second box down there is a site parking, which will have a site security cabin on the entrance. We have the main vehicle entrance. In the middle of the site where the roads cross, we have a pedestrian crossing, and we have a site traffic one-way system around the site. And if you can see the yellow arrows, which indicate the pedestrian walkway, which will take you across the front of the office building around the perimeter of the site. We have a cost storage area, which is located away from the site offices and the main building, and also a material laydown area to the left-hand side of the offices. So as I said, the cabins are located at the top northeast corner of the site. We will have a 2-story interlocking container system, with the bottom story being the site canteen, dry room and changing room and site toilets, with male, female and disabled toilets available. The top floor is the site offices with a small kitchen, which will have meeting rooms and also male and female toilets. There will be a site security office at the entrance to the site, which will check in all incoming and outgoing vehicles, and the pedestrians will be monitored through the check-in gate. And there will be a cost safety container away from site building and cabins to the west of the site. Storage areas. So we'll have storage lockers in the drying room for the site operatives. We have secure sensitive data storage for compliance with GDPR, which will be in the main office. First aid and PPE storage and facility room are located in the lower cabin. As I said, the cost storage container is on the site. A site laydown area for incoming deliveries and materials to the northwest of the site. A selection of lockable filing cabinets for site forms and permits, etc., will be located in the second floor office. Site skips for waste management will be located in the bottom southwest corner of site. So if I can hand you over now to Adesola, who will go through the site security with you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So as we all know, security is a very vital and essential aspect of any construction work. So in as much as we are trying to adhere and comply to the health and safety policy to keep all workers and all assets on site safe. So we have tried to control vandalism and theft to the barest minimum by putting some security measures in place to deter individuals that can interfere to the site activities through unauthorized entry. At the same time, we are trying to put a checkmate in place to detect a security threat activity. At the same time, provide an instant or immediate response for us to be able to tackle the security threat in question. So the following measures have been put in place to checkmate inefficient site security as we progress on our refurbishment or renovation work. If you can go to the next slide, then I take these items one after the other. First, we make sure we put a barrier and fencing in place, which we deal with unauthorized entry into the site, which all entry to the site should be controlled by our manned security personnel on the site. So we also identify communication to our mechanism to make reporting of security threats easy to the security team on site so that immediate and quick response can be taken to any security breach of activities. Then lighting features is also a very vital aspect as regards security on controlling site, because trying to keep out blind spot of our site is very essential. We make sure the site is well illuminated so that every activities can be clearly seen as we progress on our construction work. We have as well tried to put an anti-vandal feature on our cabins, especially the site welfare and storage cabins, so that all assets and are safe, and any unauthorized entry cannot be carried out on all these proper site welfare and storage facilities provided in our construction process. If you can go to the next slide to see the next items. So we are as well, we have paid cognizance to the fact that first aid training is very, very important, especially to our security personnel, because any emergency activities can happen at any time, and the security personnel can be the next available person that can come to the aid of any construction worker working at any point in time. So we have decided to give them the proper training for first aid activities, so which is expected for them to carry out in case of emergency. We have also put in place a CCTV camera that will measure real-time pictures and image of all activities going on the sites. Just in case we have a cause for any investigation, for any security breach, we can always refer to CCTV for investigation and for keeping track of all activities happen in real time. Like I said earlier on, we also have a personnel guarding the site. That will be the first contact on entering the site, whether to grant access or decline access to anybody trying to enter the site. So it's to control vehicular and extra movement to this site and make sure everybody is in check as we continue the construction process. So, and last but not the least, on the site control measures, we have also tried to consider putting an access control system for all members of the construction team, as well as any subcontractor, anybody coming to site to deliver material or what have you, so that we can have a proper record of who goes in and out of our sites. So we also have in mind to notify the local police or the enforcement agency in case we have records of breaches, security breaches, so that they can come to our aid as them fits. So I'll hand over the next item on the slide to my next colleague, Kenny, to take us through the emergency arrangements plan we have made in place.
Morning, everybody. Kenny Cameron, I'm the Health and Safety Officer and Dual Rolled Fire Officer. I'm going to take you through the fire action plan. To come up with the fire action plan, the first thing I'd had to do was conduct a fire risk assessment, which was very site specific. I actually visited the site myself to see what was in place, liaised with the local fire and rescue service. I was interested in things as if there's any fire hydrants already there, what's immediate outside the site that I can use. Also took into account the hazards. You can see some on there that we might be introducing: flammable fuels, chemicals, building materials, which some of them will be wooden. We'll be doing some electrical work, and specified the hot works for the grinding, because that will be controlled by a permit to work, which is one of our measures. Also looked at the numbers of site on staff. That would assist me in how many trained fire wardens are needed. Communication systems, which involves radios, and I know most people carry mobile phones these days. From that, I come up with the amount of firefighting equipment we need. Now it's predominantly portable water, CO2 and powder-based firefighting measures. However, I can access the river should the fire service decide they need to take additional water out. All areas would be, including these locations, will be marked with signage, escape routes, muster points. The main muster point is at the entrance, just between the car park and the main entry gate. Like I say, all these signage will be put up and added to the main large-scale site plan. We've shared the information with the Fire and Rescue Service and the security company who's providing it. Additional information on the boards would include the location and postcode and what 3 words for our site access. We even took into account the security to deter arsonists. Like I mentioned earlier, I am the named fire safety officer, but I do have additional wardens, and there is actually over 30 fire extinguishers in place, and I'll have addition for other things as well. Detection systems, we will be putting in a temporary hardwired detection system in call points. Again, they'll be highly visible. The cabins have already got them in place, but the main work area will be fitting them as we go along. Should it require any changes as the refurb develops, I'll change them. On the picture there, you've got a typical fire action notice. All our staff are trained in evacuation fire drills. Like I say, we do use a permit to work system as well. So the actions on discovering a fire would be to raise the alarm and call 999. Normally the one as that would be a supervisor. We do have radios in sites. However, I have no problems with a normal member of staff using his mobile phone. I'd rather they got 2 calls rather than 1. They will only fight the fire if trained to do so, which makes them mad, but only without endangering their life. And on hearing the alarm, everyone should be moved to the muster point, where the security guard will hand me the nominal roll. I'll take a list and count for everyone. And we can also meet the fire and rescue service and direct them where necessary. I personally will complete a first fire drill on day 1, and we also cover those during the site induction. And like I say, all the signage will be put up and added to the main plan. It's main site plan, sorry. Moving on to the emergency procedures, similar to the fire, I initially conducted a first aid needs assessment for the site, looking at what we're doing, types of injuries we may have. That allows me to then come up with a plan, how many first aiders need, how many first aid kits. So I list all the first aiders, again, will be listed on the notice boards. On a standard day, looking at the workers we've currently got, about 6 staff will have attended the first aid work course and 8 emergency responders. The security company we use also trains their staff. It will never fall below half of that amount, right? So that's the best case scenario. First aid kits, we use the standard 20-person HSE kits. There's 5 located. It says the main office is 2. We've changed that. Because obviously the canteen and the changing rooms are co-located. The security office will have 1, and I'll move the one that I'd mentioned to the main work area. Some of the vehicles do actually have small first aid kits, and co-located with the larger first aid kits are the eye wash bottles, and there is additional eye wash next to the course locker. I will have spare first aid kits, fire extinguishers and eye wash bottles in my office. The main office itself also holds a defib with the pads and batteries. They form part of my management check. The nearest hospital is 500 metres away, and like I say, there'll be signage all around the site, and all our emergency details are on the board. Next slide, please. Sort of split into 3 types of injury. We've got the minor injuries, which will be immediately dealt with. We can, if it's just like a minor cut, we'll apply plasters and enter it into the accident book. If it's slightly more serious, after dealing with them in the first aid room, we would then take them to hospital. We can get a supervisor to take them down using the company vehicle, what I'd refer to as walking wounded. And worst case scenario, if we've got to call 999, get an ambulance in, we'll be met at the gate and taken to the site of the injury. We'll deal with that from there. In all cases, I will initiate action investigation. It'll be really minor for a cut. However, it's some more serious, we'll get a full in-depth report. We do have additional procedures for gas leaks, striking underground utilities, overhead cables, cost spillages, where we can use the spill kits, flooding, finding explosives, any incidents involving plant or vehicles, and should we come across asbestos that we're not aware of. Moving on to the health and safety policy, briefly on the screen there, we do actually have a genuine, don't you see it in front of me, health and safety policy. These are the main headings. We do take it very seriously. We're aware of legal obligations. Key points in this one, the line manager's responsibilities and the employees' responsibilities. The managers are trained but we need the employees to tell us if we don't find out about it. And then after that, we can come up with an action plan where we can liaise, consider making some workplace adjustments, which might include like changing hours or relocating them to another site. And then bringing in absence management, return to work, which will bring in very much our HR staff. And this is all done in confidentiality. Next slide, please. Now that's just words. So what do we do as an individual company? Well, we put all our supervisors and managers through the 2D mental health first aid course. We're not at 100% yet, but we're up at 80, and it will be there within the next 6 months. And then we'll progress that onto the HR staff because it involves them as well. We do have our Optima Health, who are our designated occupational health provider, who we can escalate it to if necessary. We make sure all the staff receive toolbox and mental health at least once a year. The toolbox talks is part of the health and safety management checks. Within the main offices, you'll find the posters displayed. This includes the name managers who trained, who they can speak to. And it also includes information like the confidential helpline numbers, like for the Samaritans and Mind, which is the mental health charity that the CITB have affiliation to. And we're aware that some of the staff, we don't see that much of. So for people like the agency staff, we have a similar little small contact card that we can hand out to those staff. And it'll also be covered in the induction brief. And that's me, Cindy.
Thank you very much for that. And this is our traffic management plan here at Trotters. One of the major risks with management of construction traffic to the safety and the members of the public. The site is present in a live school area and in a busy residential area. All roads, School and Bramley Road, are in use all times during the day. Therefore, controls must be in place to help maintain safety to workers and the public at all times. Vehicular access to the site shall be from School Road using the pre-existing pathway. This access point has been selected as to minimize disruption to existing traffic, as Bramley Road is far more busy of the bus route and School Road is less busy. Furthermore, the pathway already exists, so the local community already have a pre-existing notion to be cautious around this pathway. A separate entry point for workers and pedestrians will be made, as this will ensure segregation between vehicles and workers to help reduce the likelihood of a hazard occurring. Construction traffic will enter and leave the site in accordance to the site management plan. The traffic will be segregated and reversing will be discouraged to help reduce the risk of an accident from happening. All contractors and suppliers delivering to the site will be forwarded a copy of the site delivery instructions, which details the site address, vehicle routes, restrictions, and other safety rules. All personnel who are delivering to the site must inform the site manager at least 24 hours beforehand to allow proper preparation, prevent and avoid clashing of deliveries, which can cause and result in excessive and unnecessary congestion on the roads. All loading and unloading will occur within site at an agreed designated point. There will be no loading and unloading off-site at any times. All deliveries will be made between 9 AM to 3 PM when the children are in school to help reduce the risk of accidents. A traffic warden and marshal will be on hand at the station at the vehicle access and must be observed and obeyed at all times. Pedestrian access, mentioned before, will be different to the vehicle access to reduce the risk of accidents. Where there is crossover within the site, there will be appropriate signage for drivers and pedestrians, as well as segregation in the barriers. Parking. There will be limited parking on site. This is a pre-agreed designated space. Any parking off-site must comply with the rules of the local council. Traffic rules. As a 5 mph speed limit will be strictly adhered to at site at all times. Reversing on the site will be avoided if possible. If it is absolutely necessary to reverse, this will only be ever done under the guide of a traffic marshal. Pedestrians and vehicles shall be physically segregated on site. A separate vehicle and pedestrian access shall be provided. An internal system will be in place to wash down tires and mud to ensure roads and pathways will be kept clean. All emergency exits must be kept clear at all times. And this is our welfare assessment. Trotters Independence Trailers will provide all the welfare on site. This will include having a site office, changing rooms, toilet facilities, as well as a canteen where cold and hot water will be provided, as well as microwaves and kettles. We will be accommodating 60 workers, including office personnel. These facilities will be installed at the beginning of the construction phase in accordance to CDM regulations and will provide the workers with all their needs. These will be maintained and kept in good, clean working conditions at all times by the contracted site cleaner. Toilet and washing facilities will be connected to the mains drainage systems. This ensures there is no septic tank system which can cause any environmental complaints. The number of toilets made available will be 1 to 7, so 1 toilet for every 7 workers, according to the best practice. The toilets will be segregated and have a locking door to ensure privacy at all times. There will also be a clean supply of hot and cold water, as well as soap and hand towels. Facilities will also have an emergency eye wash station. The canteen will be a clean and dry environment for workers to eat and rest in. Tables and chairs are provided, as well as heating. There will also be a means of warming up food, such as a microwave and a kettle to boil water. There will also be an adequate supply of clean drinking water at all times. The canteen will have signage to help promote health and safety at work, as well as a notice board to keep up to date with all the latest happenings. Changing rooms will also be provided. This will be independent and lockable cubicles, as well as segregation for male and female employees. There will also be lockers at hand to keep any key items safe at all times. The site office will have tables, chairs, and heating. They will also have all their key documentation provided for them, such as permits and inspection reports. All of the welfare facilities will be provided in accordance to the Workplace Health and Safety and Welfare Regulations Act 1992.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Site signage. Safety signage. Safety signage is a mandatory requirement on any construction site. We have conducted a risk assessment for this, which has clarified the safety signs we need and where they should be located. Through our site induction, all workers that come onto the site will be informed of the dangerous areas and made aware of what the signs look like. We will have signs displayed clearly at the site entrance to inform all persons entering the site about the health and safety requirements for the site. These will include the minimum PPE requirements and to report to the site security office. Other signs to be displayed include a selection of mandatory, warning, prohibition, emergency escape and first aid signs. Adequate fire signage showing escape routes around site, fire assembly points and the position of fire alarm call points and extinguishers. We will have a designated COSH locked storage container. Signage will be clearly visible on the door of this. Some signs will be used together with the use of hand signage between banksmen and plant drivers. Traffic management signs will also be required. They will meet the requirements of the latest road traffic signs, regulations, and general directions and appropriate to this site. These will also include directional signage to site and instructions for deliveries. We will have our health and safety at work poster, our HSE policy statement, signs populated with the site's first aiders and fire marshals. We will also have our F10 notification form and our company insurance certificate on display in our main site office. Next slide, please. These are the signs that you might see around the site. Smoking area ones, fire call points, and then this is what we'll have in the main office with the legal posters. Next slide, please. Site rules. We've got a lot of site rules. We have listed a lot of site rules. We as principal contractors, all subcontractors and site visitors to the site are to follow. We've picked out a few of the main ones we feel particularly important. Site visitors must report to the site security office at the main gate and the key operated pedestrian access gate to either stop unauthorised persons entering the site or directing them to the correct delivery area or site office. PPE requirements are 5 points of PPE: boots, high vis, hard hat, eye protection, gloves. PPE is there to protect us from the hazards on site. Our strict PPE requirements overrules any subcontractor's risk assessed lower level of PPE requirements. Pedestrians to use designated entrance and walkways. There will be a barrier system in place around the full site for pedestrian and construction traffic segregation. The walkways will have a designated route from the pedestrian entrance to the site office and welfare facilities and to the site. No reversing of vehicles. In the unforeseen event, reversing should become unavoidable. A banksman or marshal will be used to assist in the manoeuvre. No person who is under the influence of alcohol or drugs is allowed on site. We have zero tolerance to drug and alcohol use on site. Anyone suspected as being under the influence of drugs or alcohol will be asked to leave site immediately. Site traffic is one way and a maximum speed limit of 5 miles an hour. By law, every workplace must be organised so that pedestrians and vehicles can circulate safely. For this reason, we have implemented a one-way system around site with a maximum speed limit of 5 miles an hour. Smoking is in designated areas only. This is just the top of the site next to the welfare facilities, away from combustible materials and the cost storage area and the public on the school road. Safety signs and notices must be followed at all times. Safety signs are strategically placed throughout the site where needed, they lay out clear rules that all site workers and visitors will follow. I'll now pass you over to Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. Scott, I'm Paul Crowe. I'm the site manager for the Bramley Road refurb project. So we have an induction procedure and checklist. So on arrival, inductions will be held in the canteen at 8 o'clock every Monday by Health and Safety Officer, Kenny. This will include information on how you're carrying out your job safely, including welfare arrangements, human resource contacts, emergency contacts, and what training is required. Employees' responsibility include procedures and policies, safe systems of work, for example, and awareness of all risk assessments. As Scott's already mentioned, there's a mandatory 5-point of PPE to be worn on site at all times. What to do and where to go in emergency, where the fire exits are, assembly points and alarm points, etc. First aid, who the first aiders are, where the first aid provisions are kept, and the location of the kits. Accident and incident reporting forms, how to report them, who to report them to, and where to send it to. Information on what's in and where the welfare facilities are, and all site operatives and visitors will be subjected to this induction procedure. Okay, so document control. So we have our own document controller, Cassandra. She will keep and transmit all electronic copies of documents to you as the client and keep a record of that. However, on site, as if you're old school like me, you like to have hard copies that are signed. So we will keep a filing cabinet on the site, which will be a lockable cabinet. And on that cabinet, there will be an index identical to what you can see in front of you. And each file will, on the binder of the file, will have the same number with the details of what's stored in that file. So if we want to get access to those files, we just refer to that document. Right, moving on to permissions and notifications. We will need to notify any hot works. We will authorise any ladders to be used on site and issue confined space permits as required. We've also got the F10 notification, which will be displayed in the site office. Also, we'll have records of asbestos surveys carried out and any environmental agency notifications we need to provide. We will also provide information to the local authority of the work to be undertaken and the designated network operators, local water companies, telecommunications providers, utilities, the highways agencies for the entrance to the site. And we will also liaise and notify the local school, local residents and the local farmer, because we don't want to be upsetting him, of the work to be undertaken. From an environmental point of view, we have our own waste management procedure. This will cover the use of registered waste disposal companies that we intend to use. We will have waste segregation on site for our metal, concrete, etc. And recycling, and apply the principles of waste recycling and hold the duty of care. We will also control pest on site and report that as necessary. Spill kits are available across the site, and we will also undertake a local environmental survey before work commences. Next.
We also
carry on, Abraham.
Thank you very much, Paul. We're also part of the Considerate Constructors Scheme. This is a scheme meant to encourage best code of practice beyond the standards which are required from us. So the aim for our project will be to achieve the certificate for performance beyond compliance. And this is being great in improving the appearance of our site, respecting the community, protecting the environment, securing everyone's safety, and caring for the workforce, all beyond the statutory requirements. As a contractor to date, we've had no real incidents. We've also liaised with the stakeholders and the local community in design and the setup of the site to make sure any concerns of theirs has been addressed. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation, having the patience for it, and we'll open the floor to any questions.
I have a question.
And just before we do, Peter, as is traditional at this point, Let's give that a round of applause.
Ooh.
Okay, over to you, Ibrahim. You can now do the questions. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Peter, you have a question? Yep.
Right, you're doing a soft rip out, hard rip out. Will you make the asbestos awareness certificates available to our health and safety officer and their demolition awareness certificates to our officer?
I can answer that. Yes, we will. So there's already been a management survey done, and we're going to undertake a refurbishment survey, and that information will be available prior to work commencing.
I heard that you located the fire hydrants. In the past, we had a contractor on site who used that as a water source. Will you be using metered standpipes?
So we're not Kenny, you could answer this one on the fire. Kenny?
There is we didn't actually identify it immediately on site, but I have got some directly outside. Like I say, I reviewed the site myself, spoke to the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, so I've no plans for metered water at the moment.
Okay.
Can I just ask Jared if you can remove the main screen? Just take the PowerPoint down so I can see people.
I just wanted to leave it up so we can flick through if we need.
All right,
to
sorry then, apologies. I just didn't see who's talking to me.
Kenny, you seem to be doing an awful lot of work. Who takes over from you when you're away?
I have obviously, as I mentioned, I had nominated wardens, fire wardens and that, and the supervisors. I have no plans during the normal working day. I will be on site, and I'm at the end of a phone should they require me back in the event of an accident. But the supervisors are trained in basic accident investigation. They know that they should be tipping up and securing the site, taking evidence. Obviously, priority being to the casualty.
The welfare units. How are you getting in? Have you booked in a contractor for that? And are they doing the rams for that crane lift? Are they taking care of the whole thing?
So the welfare units were one of the first things to go in, and the lift will be done by an external company and lift plans submitted prior to that happening.
Right, on the environment, plasterboard. I take it you're going to install a separate skip for plasterboard that's covered?
So as part of our environmental policy, we have waste segregation.
But will you have a separate plasterboard skip?
Yeah.
Yes.
We will,
Thank you.
yeah.
That's the end of my questions.
Still got 3 minutes of questions. I don't know how we've got 5 questions there in 2 minutes. So well done there, Peter, and well done there for answering them. Am I going to have to roll my questions out? There's 3 more minutes.
I had a thanks for the presentation, guys. I did have a note down to ask about ecology, but you answered all my questions during your presentation, so well done.
Thank you.
Okay then, here come mine. I noticed on the there was an open drain over towards the farmland there. I just wondered if you've got any considerations for that open drain.
Part of the environmental survey we're going to have done, we're going to have that inspected to see if there's any special considerations that need to be paid attention to that.
Thank you, Jared. I noticed on your site security you had quite a nice slide dedicated to the lighting. I'm just wondering whether whether that would be an environmental issue with too much light pollution.
Well, the lighting provision basically, I think it deals with activities in the night time as again the daytime.
Oh, they're on sensors.
Yeah, so specifically, if you have some activities that need to be to take place in night, depending on the contractor in question, so definitely we might have to look at providing adequate lighting to keep out black spots on our sites and keep everywhere visible.
Okay, thank you. You said also with you, we'll stay with you, Adeshola, please. You mentioned anti-vandal features on the security. What is an anti-vandal feature?
Anti-vandalism feature refers
that's obviously I know what vandalism is, but I wondered what an anti-vandal feature is. You said it's got anti-vandal features, so I just wondered what those features were.
It's any features that don't encourage direct access to a space. For instance, we can talk about access control system like door, because for instance, if a door is not controlled, that is open-ended, even if someone managed to beat the security system we have on site, he or she can have a direct access to maybe the welfare cabin, and which restores a lot of vital and important aspects that takes care the site worker. So for instance, site access control system is an anti-vandal feature, one we heard about maybe on the
also with the containers, as well as there's metal covers, that lockable covers that go over the windows, things like that. So in terms of the vandal features on the welfare.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I can see you've got a hand up, so I'll hand over to one of my colleagues.
What are your working hours? Did I miss them? Just what are your day-to-day working hours? Because
we did have them in induction, I think.
You
Ibrahim, do you touch on that as well?
For activity at night, but I don't know many construction sites that work into the evenings because of the risk, and local councils don't normally like it. So I just wanted to confirm what your working hours are and what you expect will be night work, what night work you'll be expecting to do with the lightings.
I don't think we're not planning to do any night work. There'd be standard working hours, 8 till 5, to avoid schools as well.
8 till 5.
We mentioned about traffic ingress only coming in during the school hours to avoid road congestion and conflict with people going to school.
Perfect.
And that is 5 minutes of questions now, then, so we can give it a final round of applause. Well done, guys. Well done. Yes. Timing, Jack.